What a draft night, Kurt. Number one, as expected, Anthony Edwards goes to Minnesota. What's your take on that?
Look, I like that for them. Look, this was, again, a bit of a fit pick, right? Like, they could have taken LaMelo Ball, but they already have D'Angelo Russell. They could have taken James Wiseman, but they already have Karl Anthony Towns. Now they get a wing who's just going to go get buckets in the NBA. And, yeah, there's questions about his defense or whatever. He is incredibly athletic. He was scoring from, like, 19 points a game as a 19-year-old in the SEC. He can get to the rim, and you develop him a little. And, look, now you've got a third guy, number 3, to go with your 1 and 2. I'm not sure about them all getting stops right now in Minnesota, but like I like that build, so I like that fit for them.
Yeah, and when you look at him play, right, you see someone who's hungry, and that's what I love to see in any guy. You know, especially at that level, when you are talented, you're athletic as he has, all the gifts that he has, but he plays with a hunger. I'm excited to see how he picks that up in the next level and just learns how to play defense, and because we know that there are questions around his defensive play. But defense is a lot just mindset and effort. So if he wants to learn, he can really pick that side of his game pretty quickly.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of demand to do that. Like, there'll be pressure. There's got to be a coach there preaching defense with that team. But, like, if he can just be good, he doesn't have to be locked down number 1 stopper guy. If you can just be a good defender and a good team defender, and with rookies that takes some time because the recognition is hard in the NBA. The offenses and defenses are far more complex than they were 20 years ago. You get there, look, he's going to be he's going to have a long career in Minnesota, I think, next to those two guys. They're a really interesting team going forward.
Yeah, what Gerson Roses has done.
Yeah.
I mean, last night my jaw was on the floor. They had so many moves. You get Ricky Rubio back in Minnesota, the veteran point guard that they need on that team, because when I was looking at that roster, I was like, where's the veteran experience? Where's the leadership? So you have a guy who knows what it means to lead, who's played in the league for a long time, brings that level of professionalism. You get a crafty Argentinian player in Leandro Bolmaro, and now you have Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniel and big. I mean, what they're doing it's very impressive. It's going to be I'm not expecting an immediate change as far as them becoming a playoff contender right away, but down the road, I gotta say 2-3 years from now, they look pretty interesting.
And I think that's what you're building towards with them, right? I mean, yeah, Karl Anthony Towns is getting to the point you've got to start winning with him in the next couple of years. But this was something where you're building a foundation. You're building something that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, this is a team that can move up and start threatening the top half of the West and make bold moves. And like you said, Ricky Rubio is just a great pickup because you can play him next to D'Angelo. D'Angelo can play off the ball a little. You can have him back him up. Like, that's a solid veteran guy who, by the way, is a better defender than people realize. Makes great hands, great steals. You can plug him in a lot of places to fill gaps. And I think that this is a pretty good team this year with the potential, like you said, with Jaden and everybody they got, to be really good in a few years.
And we look at the other top 3 pick, LaMelo Ball, going to Charlotte. I want to know, I'm very curious. We kind of knew it was happening, but after seeing the dust settle, what are your thoughts on that?
To me, if you're talking about just one of the big winners of the night, it's Charlotte. Again, not because I don't know if LaMelo Ball is going to pan out. There are legitimate questions about whether his love of the game and the work ethic is going to be there to become the player he needs to be, to overcome his weaknesses on defense and the inconsistencies in shooting. He is the guy in this draft with incredible star potential, a 6'7" guy with sweet handles who can dish the ball. Look, already has that passing gift that is just hard to find, that Luka Doncic and LeBron James and Ricky Rubio and all these guys have, that you can't teach. And if he can put together the rest of his game, for Charlotte, man, you just need talent. You need a star. You need an elite player on that roster. This was the guy in the draft most capable of being that guy, right, of reaching that level. Go get him and take a chance. If it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. You've got to develop him, but take a swing, because you ultimately need that kind of player to really compete at the highest levels of the NBA, and Charlotte doesn't have a guy like that.
When you have a guy that's that size, being able to have the floor vision that LaMelo Ball has, that's just uncommon, as you mentioned. It just is, like you can literally put on a list and you named half of them, Luka Doncic, LeBron James. There's not a lot of people who are 6'7" with vision like that.
No.
But I'm curious to see how he evolves in the sense of early on, he's going to have to take the lion's share of scoring, right? And we know he can score. I think he put up some absurd number, points, like 90-something points, something crazy in high school. We know we can score at will almost, right? But the thing is, when you start evolving, you have to understand when to score, when to pass, when to dish, when to take over games. And I think that's going to come later on, year 5, 6, 7. But I'm excited to see the 1-2 punch with him and Vernon Carey. Because Vernon Carey, I'm telling you, was a steal. I saw so many Duke games this year. My brother played for them. And his physical tool set is amazing. For the size and strength that he has, being able to move as quickly and as well as he does, it's just a special combination. I think that obviously when he starts getting his basketball IQ up to speed as well, he's so young. He'll become a dangerous player, especially right next to LaMelo Ball. I'm expecting Lob City in Charlotte for years to come.
Absolutely. And you know what else is interesting with that team now? If I'm another team in need of a point guard, particularly a scoring point guard or a backup, I'm calling them because they've got Dante Graham. They've got Terry Rozier. That may be redundant on this team right now, right? Like that, those guys may not necessarily be part of the future, or at least not enough part of the future that you're, if I come in with a good offer, you're not going to take. If I need one of those positions and I can help them out with picks or a young player, I'm calling. Those guys could be on the move. I don't know that, like, that's not definitely going to happen, but if I needed a point guard right now, I'd be calling because those guys can play. Those guys can go get you buckets as a, six-man type of role. And that has real value, especially on other teams. I'm not sure it's going to have the same value on Charlotte because they're still years away.
And they have $20 million in cap space as well. I mean, Charlotte, I'm very hesitant to say this, Remember the throwback jerseys where Charlotte was really great. I love watching Baron Davis. There were some exciting teams in Charlotte, but the future does look bright. So if you're a Hornets fan, you can't help but be excited, right?
You should be. By the way, nationally, we just need more teal on our TV, man. Like, we need more teal uniforms on our national television. And we may get, I would say we get that in a few years, but honestly, the way LaMelo Ball is a draw, we might get more of that this year.
Hey, I love it. I can't wait to see it. Next up, we have the winners and surprises of this draft. So when you look at this draft, all in all, pound for pound, Kurt, who came out as the clear winners?
I got two winners I really like. One team, one player. Winner player is Patrick Williams. How did he come? I mean, talk about a guy. It wasn't a total shock. There was a lot of talk about the Bulls taking him at 4 the last couple of days, but talk about a guy who was in his 20s and was considered a developmental project, and maybe we're going to get there, maybe we're not. And suddenly, boom, he's going at number 4. They're putting a lot on him. He's going to a team loaded with guys with potential and guys who can look, Zach LaVine and Kobe White and everybody, Lauri Markkanen. It's a really interesting build in Chicago, but that guy just rocketed up draft boards, and whatever happens for him, he's a winner, man. He's getting a decent payday now. Good for him. And the team, this is less draft to me and more just smart management on draft day. Philadelphia got out from under Al Horford's contract, moved Josh Richardson. Josh Richardson, who was a bigger contract, but also just not the best fit. They bring in Danny Green, a 3-and-D wing with 3 rings, who just knows how to win and knock down shots. Oh, and by the way, they get Seth Curry, not quite as good a shooter as his brother, but still one of the better shooters in the league.
He's good. He's dangerous.
So good and so dangerous. And suddenly there's floor spacing. They got Landry Shamet. Like, they've loaded up on shooters and floor spacing and guys that better fit around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons all in a couple of days. Like, Daryl Morey gets some credit here for just revamping that roster in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see the team flesh out. For me, I think the winners, one surprise that I thought was the Kings roster. I think we'll get to that in a little bit. I thought they won out with Tyrese Haliburton. Really, he slid to what? I mean, that's crazy to me. They picked him up. Awesome. But the Spurs, to me, I got to say, I'm a big San Antonio fan. And I think the Spurs came out. And I think the Spurs came out pretty good here. I mean, I know that San Antonio is kind of in the middle of a rebuilding phase, but you pick up a hard-nosed defender in Shea Jones late or midway through the second round. And then in the first round, you pick up Devin Vassell, who, once again, another 3-and-D player. But I think he's the perfect fit for San Antonio's offense because they already have Lonnie Walker. They already have DeJounte Murray. They already have Lyles and Derek White. I think they have their kind of core group, but they like to have that 3-point knockdown shooter, great defender. You think about a Bruce Bowen. You think about Steven Jackson, Danny Green. They like to have that player on their teams, and they got a really good one. And
they're so good historically at bringing those guys along. And I think we're going to see that with all of those guys. I mean, I remember watching Lonnie White at Summer League, last time there was a Summer League, and thinking, man,
why is he here? Why are they playing? Like, he's so much better than everybody else, but they wanted to get him some run because they weren't able to during the season. I love the way they develop. I love the way they build it. I think this is going to be, like you said, look, are they going to be really dangerous this year? No, but they've got a core of guys that they're starting to build and develop. And you're like, in a few years, they're either going to internally develop one of these guys again, and suddenly you're going to be, where did this star come from? Or they're going to be able to land somebody, and suddenly this thing's going to come together. I've always been a big fan of how they handle their business.
Absolutely. Hey, I would appreciate if they were good this year. just throwing it out there. If you could just put that in the universe, that'd be great. And as far as draft steals, who comes to mind for you as the one steal of the draft, Kurt?
We talked about this. Tyrese Haliburton sliding all the way down to the Kings at number 10. How does that happen? Like, how does that come up? Like, this is a guy who a lot of teams were talking about higher in the draft. Now, he walks into Sacramento. You can play him next to De'Aaron Fox and then use him as the backup point. He's not going to necessarily take shots he can get the ball to Buddy Hield. He's not necessarily just trying to take his shots away as a score-first guy. He can defend. He just steps in with a mature game that's going to desperately fit what the Kings need. If they can, keep Bagley healthy, suddenly that becomes, the West is stacked, but that is a really interesting team being built in Sacramento. And you saw the reaction in their draft room. That wasn't, how should I put this? It wasn't like staged. Like, they knew they were on camera, but that was genuine. They were like, I can't believe Haliburton fell to us. We had him way higher. They were jumping all over the place.
When you talk about a player who's that smart, who's that good of a leader, who can help you on both ends of the floor, I don't understand how that many teams could pass up on him. But hey, the Kings, like you said, they're building something really interesting. I don't know. Historically, the front office has made questionable decisions over the past decade or so. So you think, okay, well, we'll see what's happening in Sacramento. But Marvin Bagley, once again, athletic tools, physical gifts. He's in one of a special category. Really, really speaking. So I think it'd be interesting to see him and Haliburton play side by side and whatever pieces that they put around them in the future. But that team, still needs a lot of work. But it is very, very interesting. For me, one of the biggest steals that I thought was RJ Hampton going so late to Denver. I really, really like his game. And I know that when you talk about the NBL, everyone thinks LaMelo Ball. But this kid, RJ Hampton, when you actually watch his tape, this young man, he's talented.
Yeah,
he's talented. And I think he'll be able to bring some really nice compliments to what they have in Denver. So I'm excited to see him play next to Jokic, next to Murray. It's going to be interesting. I think immediate impact as well.
This is one of those guys who was a top player in high school who kind of fell down boards during, while overseas. And after that, those kind of players sometimes, not always, but sometimes those guys get in the NBA, get into that professional environment and thrive. Like, they've got the athletic talent. They didn't fit for whatever reason there in their previous settings. Denver's a great developmental program too. I mean, look, if you go back, they're going through Jokic and Murray, but also look, the Torrey Craigs and everybody on that roster. They are one of the best developmental teams, and this is a great landing spot for RJ. Like, this is just, I think that if he's going to thrive, he needed to be in a place like this where there wasn't going to be immediate pressure. Like, you've got to carry us. Here's the ball. You got to do something. He doesn't have to do that. That Jokic guy he's pretty good. They'll be fine. But it gives him a chance to kind of develop into a role there, and that role can really expand over the years. So it's a great spot for him.
And as a young player, particularly as we keep going younger and younger and younger, it's almost cyclical in the sense you think about when I was growing up, you had Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, these guys who were very talented coming out of high school. And it took them years to develop in the league to become the superstars, the transcendent superstars that they were. And then you had guys who were almost just ready to plug and play, a la a Tim Duncan, someone who's just 4 years come in, superstar right away. And then now we're back almost to this 19-year-old, like James Wiseman only played 3 games. It's almost as if he came out of high school, really.
Yeah.
But the best place for these young guys to be in is exactly what you're describing. A place like Denver, who's willing to give you 4 or 5 years to come into your own, put you in a great program where you can come off the bench, or Michael Porter Jr. is a good example too, of being able to contribute in playoff situations right away as well. So I love that spot for him. It's a dream scenario for any young guy.
Exactly. And look, you're right, by the way. A few years ago, you did not have
this kind of developmental thing with teams. Every team now has a whole developmental staff, right? They've got an assistant coach and guys who are out there to help them develop. Some of them are better at it than others, though. Toronto is amazing at it. The Spurs have historically been really good at it. And like we said, Denver's been really good at this, and that's why it makes a great landing spot for RJ.
I'm excited to see all these guys' career pan out, and I guess it's in a month, so we'll see very quickly what comes out of this draft.